Akaro sachivam dutam
Akaro sachivam dutam
Subhadat atha sathitam Yam manyase matuleyam
Brahmanyase matuleyam
Priyam mitram suhritamam
Priyam mitram suhritam
Akaro sachivam dutam
Akaro sachivam dutam
Subhadat atha sathitam.
Suhritam atasat.
Anyone else like to recite the verse?
Yam manyase matuleyam
Yam manyase matuleyam
Priyam mitram suhatmam
Priyam mitram suhritamam
Akaro sachivam dutam
Akaro sachivam dutam
Sahurdat atasartam
Subhadat atha sathitam.
Yamanase matuleyam
Yam manyase matuleyam
Priyam mitram sruhitamam
Priyam mitram suhritamam
Akaro shavichadutam
Akaro sachivam dutam
Survidat atah satimam
Subhadat atha sathitam.
Yam manyase matuleyam priyam
Yam manyase matuleyam
priyam mitram suritam mama
Priyam mitram suhritamam
akaro sachi vamdutam
Akaro sachivam dutam
sauhrid atha saratim.
Suhridadatha saratim. Okay, so word to word meaning. Yam,
Yam
the person. Manyase,
manyase
you think.
yatim
Matuleyam,
matuleyam
maternal cousin.
maternal cousin
Priyam,
Priyam
very dear.
very dear
Mitram,
mitra
friend.
friend
Suhritamam,
Survitam
ardent well-wisher.
ardent well
Akaro,
Akaro
executed.
executed
Sachivam,
Sachivam
counsel.
counsel
Dutam,
Dutam
messenger.
messenger
Suhridat,
Survidat
by goodwill.
by goodwill.
Atha,
Atha
thereupon.
thereupon
Sarathim,
Sarathim
charioteer.
chariot
The translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O King, that personality whom out of ignorance only you thought to be your maternal cousin, your very dear friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc., is that very personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Purport. Lord Sri Krishna, although acting as the cousin, brother, friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc. of the Pandavas, was still the supreme personality of Godhead. Out of his causeless mercy and favor upon his unalloyed devotees, he performs all kinds of service. But that does not mean that he has changed his position as the absolute person. To think of him as an ordinary man is the grossest type of ignorance. So I'll just read the following verse, the translation and purport, and we will discuss some realizations from that one. So, Sarvatmanaha samadrisho hiyavyayasya nanukrite tatkramam mati vaishamyam niravadasya nakvachit. The translation and purport. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, He is present in everyone's heart. He is equally kind to everyone, and He is free from the false ego of differentiation. Therefore, whatever He does is free from material inequity. He is equibalanced. Purport. Because He is absolute, there is nothing different from Him. He is Kaivalya. There is nothing except Himself. Everything and everyone is the manifestation of His energy, and thus He is present everywhere by His energy, being non-different from it. The sun is identified with every inch of the sun rays and every molecular part of the rays. Similarly, the Lord is distributed by His different energies. He is Paramatma, or the Super Soul, present in everyone as the supreme guidance, and therefore He is already the chariot driver and counsel of all living beings. When He therefore exhibits Himself as the chariot driver of Arjuna, there is no change in His exalted position. It is the power of devotional service only that demonstrates Him as the chariot driver or the messenger. since he has nothing to do with the material conception of life, because he is absolute spiritual identity, there is for him no superior or inferior action. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he has no false ego, and so he does not identify himself with anything different from him. The material conception of ego is equibalanced in him. He does not feel, therefore, inferior by becoming the chariot driver of his pure devotee. It is the glory of the pure devotee that only he can bring about service from the affectionate Lord. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Rupadantikam Shri Guru Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sadhikatam Sarvarathanatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Nitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatkate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurami Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Krishmanasate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Kevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Guru Vaishnava Bhagwan Tine Rasmarane Hoye Vigna Vinashan Anayashe Hoye Nijavanchita Puran Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacharine Vishesh Shunyavadi Pasha Deshitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Vedanta Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So this section of Bhishma prayers that we are reading, actually Bhishma Dev hasn't begun his prayers yet, but he will begin them shortly. But before that, this is the prelude to the prayers of Bhishma Dev. And in these prayers, essentially in this prelude actually, he is pointing out the position of the Supreme Lord. So we know that Bhishma Dev is one of the Mahajans, and Mahajan may mean pure devotee, but there are many pure devotees. So why are there 12 different Mahajans that are listed? Actually, the Acharyas say that a Mahajan is someone from whom we can learn, so they are actually a teacher. So any action, like in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are prayers, I think there are around 105 or 108 different stutis by different devotees. But not all of them can either be followed or imitated, especially like the Gopi Gita, for example, or even the one we just read previously, like Kunti Maharani. We may not be able to imitate all of those prayers because Kunti Maharani also prays for suffering to come again and again. So that may not be appropriate for all of us. So essentially, whatever Bhishma Dev is praying, because he's one of the Mahajans, we can follow in his footsteps. That's why it is said Mahajana Yena Gatasapantha, which means we have to follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans. So before praying to Krishna, before presenting his proposition to Krishna, he makes this prelude. So in this prelude, he is pointing out that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is none other than Krishna. Or on the opposite, this Krishna whom we see in front of us is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is why in the Vishnu Sahasranam also he says, Devaki Nandana Shrishta Siddhisha Papanashana, which means that all of these 1000 names that I have recited of Lord Vishnu, they belong to none other than this Devaki Nandana who is standing in front of us and who is the one who destroys all of our sins. So it is important to know that many people, while Krishna was present, were not able to identify that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although they saw Krishna, some of them saw him as an ordinary man, some of them saw him as a Mayavi, some of them saw him as a cheetah, etc. So people had different perceptions of Krishna. But Bhishma Dev here, because he was a Mahajan, he was able to see that Krishna, or this young boy, 16-year-old boy, is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now can you imagine, like if there is some 16-year-old boy that's walking around, we may say, if someone says, oh, this guy is God, like we might feel a bit weird, like we may not believe it. And rightly so, because Krishna does not appear in front, or Krishna does not appear as the Supreme Lord to all others. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also, Yomam eva asammuno janati purushottama. So Krishna says that he does not manifest himself in front of those who are foolish. So those who are foolish cannot realize that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here in this verse, actually, these two verses, the context is that we are discussing how Bhishma Dev himself was surprised that Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas had to suffer so much. And he is giving an explanation as to why that might be the case. So he is giving an explanation where he said that actually I can't see any past karma of yours because of which you have to suffer. He's saying that karma is not the cause of your suffering. He says that the only reason I can see is that the Supreme Lord has ordained you to suffer. So, and it is all part of plan. So he says it is on time, essentially. He says this is all the activity of inevitable time. But time, we know, as it was pointed out in the previous classes also, is none other than Krishna himself. So it may be seen that Krishna directs the lives of his devotees in such a way that it may look like they are suffering. And sometimes, so for ordinary people like us, Krishna does not interfere in our lives because we are already bound up by the ropes of karma. So then we either experience happiness or experience distress because of our own past misdeeds or our own pious activities that we've performed in the past. Whereas in the case of pure devotees, it's a completely different thing. So superficially, it looks exactly the same, but if you look at it deeply, it's completely the opposite. So there, Krishna is personally controlling the lives of the pure devotees, and he's the one who is himself giving suffering to these devotees. Now, whether or not the devotees actually feel that as suffering is another thing, but it is quite popular, or it is quite apparent that superficially it looks very much like they are suffering. So as he's continuing, he's pointing out to Yudhishthir and to the Pandavas that actually the reason why you were saved at every step is because you were under the shelter of the Supreme Lord. And why they were under the shelter of the Supreme Lord? Because he's pointing out that Krishna was present with you. Now Krishna, it is possible that, when you're living with Krishna, you may not, there's a very common saying, it says that familiarity breeds contempt, which means that the more you spend time with someone, the more you forget their importance. Or in Hindi, there is one saying, "Ghar ki murgi dal barabar," which means that it's not a very nice saying, but essentially, yeah, you can say "Ghar ka paneer dal barabar," maybe for devotees, you can say that. But essentially, it means that if there is something valuable that you are in association with for quite a long period of time, you tend to lose its value. And that is very much important for everyone, including the devotees. In fact, this lesson is given even in the lives of the gopis. You may think that, well, gopis always remember he is Krishna. Yes, but to teach the external world a lesson, it is shown that when the gopis became extremely familiar with Krishna, then at that time Krishna also disappeared from the Rasa Leela. And it is also explained that one of the reasons why Krishna left Vrindavan is because the devotees in Vrindavan became extremely familiar with Krishna. Now, although this was a superficial activity, because the devotees in Vrindavan can never really become too familiar with Krishna, the idea is that these devotees are acting in such a way to teach us a lesson, that we don't forget the supremacy of the Lord. So here there are some of the qualities which are given about Krishna, that we can understand how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How Bhishma Dev, in a 16-year-old boy, he was able to see that this boy is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here we will discuss some of these qualities that are mentioned for around Krishna. So the first one is mentioned that he is Sarva Atmana. Sarva Atmana means that he is the soul of everyone's soul. So now from a tattva point of view, if you look at it from an ontological point of view, it makes sense because ultimately, firstly, it was Krishna, and from him come all of the energies. And Krishna explains that as the Paramatma, he is present in each and every atom. Now, our understanding is that Paramatma is present alongside with us in our heart. But actually, if you read the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, you will realize that Krishna is also actually present inside our Atma also. So he is the very basis, or he is the very source of our own Atma. How is that possible? Like the Atma itself is described as like being infinitesimal. So how is it possible that there can be a super soul inside that Atma also? Actually, to understand this, you can't use any material, like gross material analogy. You have to use a subtle material analogy. So imagine there are different kinds of. So I'm sure all of you have studied some level of science. So you will understand that in the animal kingdom, you have many different types of animals. You have reptiles, you have mammals, you have marsupials, you have amphibians, etc. There are different kinds of animals. So then, within each one of those divisions, you have many different. Like within mammals, you may have cows, you may have horses, you may have whales, etc. Like you have different kinds of animals. So you can take one kind of animal, and let's say you take a cow. So a learned person will be able to see in that cow that there is a mammal inside that cow. Inside that concept of mammal, you will be able to see that there is the concept of animal already inside that cow. So even though it's not physically present, you can see, at least from an intelligence point of view, we can understand, through the intelligence, we can understand that within a gross material object, there is subtle levels of reality hidden within that material object. Now, this is a very subtle thing to understand, that there are concepts hidden even within material objects. And that is similar to how Krishna operates also. That is why we can say that Krishna is present in all material objects also. Even though Krishna is immaterial, how is it possible for someone who is immaterial to be present inside something that is material? Well, if you look at it through the eyes of concepts, we can understand that Krishna is, or like, even within this wooden book, for example, we understand that there is the concept of a book here. There is meaning, like when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, there is meaning that is coming out. So that meaning, which is immaterial, is already there in this book, which is material. So if in this material world we can see that it is possible to have immaterial things inside material things, then why is it so difficult for us to understand that Krishna is present, or Krishna, who is immaterial, is present inside material things? Actually, that's how I usually debate with those who are completely materialistic and who are completely atheistic, because they say that, no, well, I can't conceive of anything that is immaterial. And then we say that, well, see, there are meanings inside a book. So a book is physical. Like, where in the composition of this book, where in the carbon atoms in this book is the meaning that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead there? Can you show me where a physical atom or a physical molecule is which points out to me that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? It's not there. You can't find it. Because if you go down to the molecular level, there is only carbon atoms, there is maybe some other hydrogen atoms or something. That's it. Whereas there is still immaterial meaning inside material things. It points to the fact that there is an immaterial reality to material things also. And that is how we have to understand this material world. That's why Krishna consciousness is very scientific, because there is a scientific basis to all of the things that we are discussing. So that is why, to understand that Krishna is the Sarvatma. So Sarvatma means that even within our spirit souls, he is present as the Atma. That is something that we can understand, at least from an intellectual point of view. We may not be able to see it, but at least we can understand it through this. So Bhishma is explaining that this 16-year-old boy who's standing with you, your maternal cousin, is actually Sarvatma. Now can you imagine, like, if someone points out to you and says your cousin is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is present inside every soul? Like, that would just sound a bit strange. But in the case of Krishna, it's extremely true, because it's actually there. Then the next one is Samadasho. Samadasho means that Krishna sees everyone with an equal heart or equal vision. Why does Krishna see everyone with an equal vision? I mean, everyone is different. Like, Radharani is on a different perspective, and then we, on the other hand, like, are on a completely different perspective. The animals are on a different perspective. The demons are on, like, a completely different level. So how is it that Krishna sees everyone equally? That is actually explained by Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya explains that when Krishna sees the demigods, when Krishna sees the human beings, and actually this will be explained in Srimad Bhagavatam later on also, when Krishna sees everything in this material universe, he actually only sees himself. Now this is interesting, because what Krishna sees is that as the Atma present within that demigod, the Paramatma of that demigod is actually Krishna. So because Krishna is able to see the Paramatma within the heart of everyone, he sees everyone with an equal vision. So that is why there is that famous verse in Bhagavad Gita also, that Pandita Samadarshana, which says Brahmane Have Hastini, which means that, Brahmane Gave Hastini. I forgot the first line. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. Yes, that's right. So one who is endowed with knowledge, he is able to see every living being equally. Why? Because he is able to see the Paramatma within the hearts of every living entity, and the Paramatma is unchanged. Similarly, it's explained that Krishna also sees the Paramatma within the heart of every living entity. Then that is why he is also able to see everyone, everyone the same. That is why it is also explained that sometimes it may be seen that Krishna or Rama, for example, they pray to one of the demigods. Like we see that Rama had actually prayed to Lord Shiva before he had embarked on his journey. So so many people have the conception that Lord Ram prayed to Shiva after killing Ravana because he had done Brahmana Hatya. But actually that's incorrect. The actual Ramayana says that Lord Ram prayed to Shiva before embarking on that journey. In fact, after killing Ravana, it was Shiva who came and offered prayers to Vishnu and to Rama, not the other way around. But anyways, in the commentary there to Ramayana, it is explained very well that Lord Rama is actually not offering his prayers to Shiva, the demigod Shiva. He is actually offering the prayers to the personality who resides within the heart of Shiva, which is none other than Paramatma or himself. And we will see that when Yudhishthira Maharaj comes to meet Krishna, when Krishna is sitting down and meditating in one place, then Yudhishthira Maharaj asks him, who are you meditating on? And then Krishna says that, yes, I am meditating on myself. I am meditating on Paramatma. So that is why Krishna is also Samadharsha. So he sees that within our hearts also is Paramatma. So what does that mean practically? Practically, does that mean that Krishna worships us as Paramatma? No, that is not what it means. What it means is that Krishna always maintains a connection with every one of his jivatmas. So whenever Krishna sees Paramatma within the heart of a living entity, he understands that this living soul can also connect to me. So then he tries to bring that living soul back to himself. It may take one lifetime, it may take 10, it may take 100, it may take millions of lifetimes. But Krishna is always trying to bring that living entity back to him because he sees the Paramatma aspect within that Atma itself also. So many people then falsely assume that the Atma is also the Paramatma. There is no difference between the Atma and Paramatma, but here it is explained that the Atma is separate to the Paramatma and the Paramatma is present inside. Just like within a cow, there is the concept of a mammal, concept of an animal already in there. So like that, they're different, but it appears the same. So then it is explained that he is the Advyayasya and Anahankrita, which means that he is the absolute truth and he is free from the identity of false ego. Free from the identity of false ego means that he does not assume any of these roles which are not actually himself. Like for example, here it is explained that Krishna took the position of the charioteer, Krishna took the position of a messenger. So it may be assumed that this is just a trick of time, it was his fate that he was cursed to take a position like that. But actually that is not the case. Throughout, whenever he is actually taking any subordinate position before the devotees, he always remembers that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and whatever he does is out of his own will. Like there's one very nice story actually which kind of illustrates the difference between Krishna and ourselves. So once upon a time there was a teacher, and the teacher entered into a class. The students at that time, they did not want to, they wanted to play, they didn't want to attend class anymore. So the students came up with a brilliant idea. So what they did is when the teacher entered into the class, they told the teacher that, oh teacher, you're not looking very well today. You look very pale, what happened? And then one student said that, teacher said, no, I'm fine, I'm okay. Then the other student also said that, hey teacher, yeah, you actually look very pale, what happened to you? Then the third one said that, then the fourth one said that. So then the teacher started believing. He's like, oh okay, maybe I am actually looking pale, maybe I am looking a bit weak. So then he started feeling weak, and he started feeling like he has some kind of illness. So even though initially he didn't believe that, he started believing he had some illness. So then he went home. When he went home, his wife told him, why did you come back home so early? And he said that, oh actually I'm very pale and I'm feeling very weak. She said, what are you talking about? You look exactly the same as you looked in the morning. He's like, no, I feel extremely weak. So then he told the students, okay, that's fine, you come to my house and I will give you a lesson from my house. But the kids didn't want to attend that also. So then the kids told the teacher, they said that, oh teacher, actually the more you speak, the more your head will hurt. So you know, like when you're sick, if you speak, your head can hurt. So they said that. Then 2 students said that, 3 students said that, 4 students said that. So then the teacher started believing. He said that, yeah, actually maybe, yeah, my head is actually hurting when I speak. So like this, he was also convinced of his own suffering or his own illness, even though he didn't have any illness. So this is what Maya does to us. So Maya will also try to convince you that you are this body, you are an Indian, you are a male, you are, how old are you, bro?
46.
You are 46 years old. They will try to convince you about all of these things. So, but actually we have to realize that we are none of these things. It's just like those kids trying to convince the teacher that he is sick, and then the teacher eventually believes it. That is what Maya does to us also. Maya tries to convince us that we actually belong to this body, or we are actually this body. But we are actually none of these. Like we are doctor, we are engineer, we are businessman, we are nurse assistant, etc. We try to believe that we are all of these things. But actually, we are none of these things. We are actually the supreme, we are actually a spirit soul, and we are the servant of the Supreme Lord. But with Krishna, it's not like that. Krishna cannot be influenced by Maya. So whatever Krishna takes, like Krishna is not the kind of teacher who will be convinced by the students that he is sick. So Krishna, when he takes on a position of being a servitor or as a messenger or whatever Krishna may, or as a charioteer, for example, in that case, Krishna is doing that out of his love for the devotees. And he always remembers that he is the absolute personality of God, and absolute supreme truth. And that is why he performs his pastimes like that. So there's a huge gulf of difference between Krishna and between ourselves as well. So that is why then it says in the verse as we read, it says Tat Kritam Mati Vaishyam, which means that everything he does is free from false ego and it's free from material inebriety. And he is always equibalanced, which means that he does not become affected by the actions that he does. Like for example, this is also very interesting because Krishna was the one who orchestrated the whole Mahabharata war. Yudhishthira was the one who executed that plan. Yeah, Yudhishthira, you can say Pandavas, Arjuna, everyone were the ones who actually executed that plan. Yudhishthira is the one who became bewildered after the war, thinking that, I was the cause of suffering for so many people. But Krishna, not even once he lamented that I have killed so many people, etc. Actually, the whole reason why Krishna orchestrated this whole Mahabharata war was so that he could deliver all of the demons. Because can you imagine? Because there are like thousands and thousands or millions of demons that were present on the earth at that time. They could have died out of their own sinful actions. It is said that when you perform sinful actions, your sinful actions will be the ones that kill you. So they could have died anywhere. They could have died at home, they could have died in the heavenly planets or hellish planets, etc. But then what is the point of Krishna's appearing in this material universe? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that yes, while the devotees consider that Paritranaya Sadhuna is one of the main reasons why Krishna comes, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually takes the other opinion. He says that actually Krishna comes to kill the miscreants. This is an interesting opinion. He says the reason why Krishna comes to kill the miscreants is because if Krishna just kills them from the material or from the spiritual world just through the action of time, they're not going to get liberated. They're not going to get delivered. The devotees will get delivered regardless because they're pure devotees anyways. But to deliver the miscreants and to deliver the demons, Krishna comes. Because then what Krishna did was he orchestrated such a huge war that pretty much warriors from all the Rakshasas from all over the world came. And when they were killed in the battlefield, before the killing, what happened? Before killing, Krishna was the one who asked, Arjuna was the one who asked Krishna to take the chariot in the middle of the battlefield. So it is explained that when Krishna took his chariot in the middle of the battlefield, Krishna cast his eyes upon the whole battlefield. And when he cast his eyes upon everyone over there, it said that everyone became delivered immediately just by him casting his glance. So that is also a very special purpose of Krishna. That's why Krishna is not bewildered. Whatever Krishna is doing is ultimately meant for the welfare of the entire world and for the entire universe. We may not understand that. That is why one of the other names in the previous verse that we were discussing was Subhritama, which means that Krishna is always the well-wisher of all living entities. Krishna never does anything to harm someone. Even if Krishna does not want to do benefit to someone, it's his nature that he will somehow or the other do benefit to others. Like for example, for us, it's exactly the opposite. We try to do good towards other people, but even in trying to do good, we do them harm. Like for example, if we try to give food to someone who is very poor, we may give him food, and then after giving him food, what happens? He gets enough strength, he gets enough money, and then he may go and he will steal from someone. So even in doing good, we actually do bad towards the person, because then he has to suffer the sinful reactions of his committing the sin. Whereas Krishna is not like that. Krishna, even if he doesn't want to do good to someone, just by coming in contact with him, that's his nature. That's how Krishna is. Just by coming in contact with him, something beneficial or something auspicious happens. Like there is that famous pastime of Lord Chaitanya in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is explained the deliverance of Bhavananda Raya's, I think his cousin brother or something like that. Yeah, so his cousin brother gets delivered. Like, or yeah, it was Gopinath Bhattacharya, I think that was the name. So he was not a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was someone who would steal money from the king because he was a minister. So he would take money from the treasury and then he would use that money to indulge in all kinds of sinful activities. So he was not a devotee, but Bhavananda Raya and Ramananda Raya were devotees. And basically, when the prince found out that this money is being stolen from the king's treasury, he ordered Gopinath to bring all of that money back. So Gopinath said, "Well, I can't bring it back." And it's explained that at that time the prince sneezed. So because the prince sneezed, Gopinath also laughed at the prince. He said, "Ha, what kind of stupid person are you sneezing in front of everyone?" Something like that, I don't know. Something happened like that. So the prince got extremely annoyed and he said that I'm going to put you on a changa. Now changa explained at that time is basically you stand on a wooden board, and when that wooden board is removed, you fall onto the heaps of swords. So you fall onto swords and you get impaled by swords. So it was a form of capital punishment. So he put this Gopinath Acharya on that changa. So then it is explained that all the devotees, when they found out, they went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and asked him, please help Gopinath, he is one of the relatives of your pure devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I don't want to help him. He says he is a thief and he is a rascal. He is the one who stole money from the king and he is using that to perform his own sense gratification. So he said, I'm not interested in delivering him. And he said, if you talk to me any more about this guy, then I will leave from here and I will go to I will go to Alarnath, I think it is explained. So he said, I will leave this place and I will go from here. So because the devotees were insisting so much, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu still did not. He said, if you want to do something, you go and pray to Lord Jagannath, but I don't want to hear about materialistic people. So then it is explained that when the devotees went to Lord Jagannath and when they prayed, then at that time, one of the relatives of Bhavananda Raya went and informed the king, Prataparudra. And Prataparudra, when he found out that the prince is trying to kill his minister, he became extremely disturbed. He said, no, I didn't want him to be killed. I just wanted my money back. So please stop his execution. So then when the execution is stopped, then at that time, this Bhavananda Raya, Gopinath, he goes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he falls at his lotus feet and he says that, I know you didn't want to save me. I know you knew that I am a sinful person. And you were even so disturbed that you didn't want to hear my plight, that you were even ready to leave all of the devotees and go away from Jagannath Puri. But he said that you are so merciful that anyone who comes in contact with you, your nature is so purifying and your nature is so auspicious that even if one comes in contact with you and even if you don't want to give him mercy, your nature is such that you will give him mercy. So that is the nature of Krishna, that if somehow or the other you have to just come in contact with Krishna, and somehow or the other you will eventually be delivered. That is why it is also said that somehow or the other people have to get in touch with Srila Prabhupada's books. That is because the mercy of Krishna is coming through his books. Somehow or the other, if we get in touch with books, then there is hope for us to be delivered. That is why the devotees, they make propaganda to distribute all of Srila Prabhupada's books all over the world, because anyone who comes in contact with the books or even touches the books, they will eventually get delivered. So actually, if you think about it, Srila Prabhupada's books are the only thing which are standing in between the people of this material world and hell. Because the amount of sinful activities that people perform nowadays, there is no doubt that all of them are going to go to hell. Srila Prabhupada's books are the only thing which can save them from going to hell. So we have to actually be cautious about this, and we have to actually try to distribute as many books of Srila Prabhupada as possible. Try to perform Harinam Sankirtan as much as possible, because then the devotees also, or people, when they take Krishna's name, even in Namabhas, it is explained, they actually get delivered from all sinful reactions. So that is why Namabhas is also very important for the devotees. So, well, not devotees as such, but devotees should be aspiring for Shuddhana, but devotees can at least induce the members of the public to chant Namahas. So at least that much should be there. So having said that, I can see it's like 8:05, so I will stop there. If anyone has anything you want to share, or any questions or any comments, you can do so now. Yes, bro.
I just wanted to make a comment. In an esoteric way, when Krishna actually does his pastimes, especially in the material world, he actually does it only for his pleasure, in his sake. And the reason it is connected, like how you earlier mentioned, that when Krishna takes all these positions as a chariot driver, or even as a cousin, the idea is that for Krishna it is all a blissful experience, in a sense that because he wants to uplift his devotees, like especially he wants to actually, how he says that he provides, whatever we are lacking, right? So that's why he even goes to the point of being a chariot driver, even lower than the position, so-called position of the devotees in this material world. So in doing that, the only thing that he derives his pleasure out of it, because that is his exchange with his devotees. Like that's the pastimes. So in that sense, we see that how he comes to this material world to enact his pastimes. For acharyas, it is like, he is just, this whole material world is just for his play field, like where he is playing with his devotees. And the devotees are also, depending on, the influence of Yoga Maya, they are doing their bits, like to actually get that playfulness going on. Not literally play, meaning like he is just making like mockeries out of us, but it is that rasa that he has with his devotees, and so because of that, it doesn't really matter what position he takes. He doesn't care.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, that's what I heard in some other lectures a while back.
Yeah, that's a perpetual, it's a very important ontological question. Like, if Krishna is already Atma Rama, then why does he expand into so many forms? Yeah. So then the answer is explained that Krishna gets more joy and more bliss when his devotees or his plenary portions also experience bliss. Because ultimately then he's the one who tastes that bliss also, even as being their Antaratma. So when a devotee tastes bliss, actually Krishna also gets bliss. That's why it said Chitram Ram Ramyatetam Tribhuvan Vapusham Vishnu Nisham Namami. Which means that Krishna is sitting in the hearts of his devotees. And when they experience pleasure, then he experiences even more pleasure, because he is the Antaratma of all of the devotees also. So yeah, that makes sense, and it's tying in. So it's a very interesting ontological question that why, if Krishna is already self-satisfied, he wants to expand himself. And that is an argument that some of the Mayavadis also use. And that is why they say that actually his expansion are not real. Yeah, they say that actually, that's a huge, that's a separate discussion altogether. But yeah, it's an argument against the Mayavadis also. That's why there's a Vedanta Sutra verse also, which says Anandamayo Bhyasa, which means that Krishna only expands to, or Krishna, whatever activity he does is completely filled with Ananda, completely filled with pleasure. And that's all he is seeking. And that is all he gets as well. Because for Krishna to actually suffer in the real sense of suffering is practically impossible. So, yeah, it's just an interesting thought. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu, you want to mention?
Mine's answered.
Oh, you answered the question. Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
I'm just trying to understand, as you were explaining that Krishna comes at the end of the era, and he kills, or delivers. The word deliver. So I'm just trying to understand that now deliver means they will go to the good destination, or because there are so many miscreants people now, as in Kali Yuga, and at the end of Kali Yuga, there will be lots and lots of people.
Yeah, definitely.
So as we have heard, like Putana or Ravana or whoever, and Lord himself killed, and even in Mahabharata, Lord himself, like he planned and everyone was delivered. Now, what destination they got, or
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it is explained in Nectar Devotion actually that when any of the avatars or incarnations of Krishna kill anyone, they all get liberated. So let's say all of the Ravana's army that was killed there, because Lord Ram cast his glance on them, all of them achieve liberation, which means they achieve the Brahmajyoti. So they all become liberated from this world, but they do not attain Vaikuntha. Whereas the difference is when Krishna kills someone, they go to Vaikuntha also. Now you may ask, why is that the case? Well, it is explained by Rupa Goswami in Nectar Devotion that when Krishna kills someone, actually the first thing that happens is they get situated in Brahmajyoti also. But because Krishna's form is so attractive and it is so pleasing to look at, they become attracted by the form of Krishna and they immediately become his devotees. That is why, Krishna has 4 extra qualities, Rupa Madhuri, Venu Madhuri. In Rupa Madhuri section, Rupa Goswami discusses this, that Krishna's Rupa is so beautiful and so charming that once they become liberated, because essentially when one becomes liberated, they're free from all sinful reactions. So when they're in Brahmajyoti, they're free from all sinful reactions, they just have that seed. But when they appreciate the beauty of Krishna, that seed is also burned. So that is why they are able to be promoted to the spiritual world. So when any other incarnation of Krishna kills demons, they all get liberated, but then they all come down again. They may take birth in pious families, or they may take birth in heavenly planets. Also, it's possible. But when Krishna kills someone, they get liberated. Liberated meaning they go to Vaikuntha straight away. And yeah, it's one of the unique features of Krishna himself compared to any of his other incarnations.
so they go to Vaikuntha, that means the spiritual world.
Yeah, they go back to spiritual world.
So from there, it definitely no one is going to come back.
From there, no one will come back. Yes. Yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. When someone goes back there, they never come back from that place. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Following Anand Krishna's Prabhu's question, so the devotees, like when Krishna literally killed himself, they also attained Vaikuntha Dham, right? So on the other hand, there are pure devotees of Lord by they are Nitya Siddha. So at what position these demons in material world killed and assigned to the Vaikuntha has their position in Vaikuntha? They are on the same level with the Nitya Siddhas, or like they are in extreme other ways?
It may depend. Like for example, Putana was there. Putana committed an offense against Krishna also. But because Krishna's nature is to deliver, she was delivered into the spiritual world. So it's explained that when she went to the spiritual world, she got the position of a nurse. It is explained. But it is said that until she becomes completely purified in her service to Krishna, she does not get the association of Krishna. So it is possible for people to go back to the spiritual world, but still not get the association of Krishna. So that I'm assuming it will be similar with the other demons also, because they still have some kind of demoniac mentality. But because they are attracted to Krishna, then slowly they will eventually become purified and they will get the association of Krishna. Now, what form they take may depend on the will of Krishna. It's very hard to say. Then whether they go to Krishna Loka, Ram Loka, Vaikuntha Loka, it's also hard to say, because some devotees may go to Dwarka, some devotees may go to Mathura, depending on their association and their relationship with Krishna. So again, it depends. Yeah. Personally, from what I've read, is the land of Vrindavan is extremely special. So anyone who is killed by Krishna in the land of Vrindavan definitely attains Golok Vrindavan. Yeah, the other places not so sure. Yeah, about whether they go to Vrindavan Dham or whether they go to Dwarka, Mathura or Vaikuntha planets. That, again, I'm speculating, so I'm just trying to join the dots from the knowledge that I already have. I would assume that it's not necessary that they go back to Vrindavan at least. They may or may not, but it's not necessary.
But all these miscreants have never heard about Krishna.
Hmm.
And then, as you explaining that, when they see Krishna, when like if Krishna himself is killing or Ram is killing himself, and because of his roop they get attached. But when they have never heard about that, but when they see, they get attached. So
it must be understood that they must have had some sukriti in the past, that they were born as miscreants even at the time of Krishna. Because people like us, we are not born during the time of Krishna. So we must not have that sukriti. We are probably not that pure that even as demons inside our hearts, we are not born at the time of Krishna. So those devotees or those miscreants are also very special, that they are born at the time of Krishna. There are some prayers in Bhagavatam also where they glorify, one of the devotees, he glorifies even Shishupal, that even though he was extremely offensive, it is so great that he obtained Vaikuntha planets. So what is to be said about people like us, there's no guarantee that we will also get the Vaikuntha planets, but those miscreants must have had some. Like Krishna, one of the names of Krishna is that, or one of the qualities of Krishna is that he does not perform any action without any reason. So whatever action he performs, there is always many reasons behind any action that he performs. So that is why when Krishna kills someone, it's not just by accident that he just killed someone. These people may have studied the Vedas, they might have done some pious activities in the past, but they have sinful tendencies, so they are born as sinful people at the time of Krishna. And that is why they are fortunate. Whereas people like us, we probably don't have that level of sukriti. That's why we're not born at the time of Krishna.
So that means when Krishna will come back again and there's a Kalki avatar, so that era.
Kalki avatar is again it's an avatar, so yeah. That again will be maybe some special souls who get born
Yeah,
at
that's
that
what I'm
time.
saying.
And
So
mostly
special
get
people will be born in that
Yeah.
area, not everyone.
I mean, these things are a bit difficult to understand because it is explained, we know how bad character Dhritarashtra was. But actually Dhritarashtra was an eternal associate of the Lord. It is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, as we will read, we will come across that. He was an eternal associate of the Lord, and he knew that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because when there is a description when Akrura comes from Mathura to Hastinapur to explain to Dhritarashtra that you should give the kingdom to them and Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he is the one who sent me. He says, yes, I offer my respects to Krishna, who is the Paramatma of all living entities. He knows Krishna is the Supreme Lord. But he says that the activities of material nature, he even knows all the philosophy. He says that the activities of material nature are very difficult to understand and I am completely under the control of Krishna's energy. So he's pointing out that Krishna is somehow controlling him so that even though he knows that he should surrender to Krishna, he is not able to surrender to Krishna. So that is why Bhagavatam offers some deeper insights that some of these people are actually genuinely playing a part, and even if he wants to surrender to Krishna, he cannot. Like there is some energy that is preventing him from surrendering on to Krishna. Why? Because if he surrenders, then the whole Mahabharata war will not happen. And that is why we know that Krishna gives Dhritarashtra mercy by allowing him to speak the first verse of Bhagavad Gita. We know first verse of Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Dhritarashtra, even though he is a completely sinful person. Why? Because when he speaks Bhagavad Gita, his name will be included alongside Krishna, and everyone will remember him alongside Krishna, which means he will also get liberated. That is what one of the acharyas explained. Because it is entirely possible to start the Bhagavad Gita from when Krishna brings the chariot in the middle of the battlefield. It makes perfect sense to start Bhagavad Gita there. But the reason why Krishna wants to start Bhagavad Gita from Dhritarashtra Vacha is because Krishna wants to deliver him also, and he is an eternal associate of Krishna. So that is also explained in Bhagavatam, which we will read eventually.
Prabhu, then what is our hope then? Because even the eternal devotees, Nityasiddha, can be deluded with the Maya, coming to the material world.
Yeah, we should not think that we will not be deluded by Maya, because these devotees or eternal associates of the Lord are deluded by the Yoga Maya, whereas we are deluded by Mahamaya. So we will be deluded by some kind of Maya, either Yoga Maya or Mahamaya. We just have to choose which one we want to be deluded by. Yeah, as a living entity, we are not independent, which one of the meanings of that is that we will always be under the control of some kind of Maya. So the quicker we understand that, the better, because the living entity actually wants to become Krishna. They want to be independent of either Maya or Yoga Maya, but that's not possible. The devotee will be under control of Yoga Maya, and the Non-devotee will be under the control of Mahamaya. It's up to us which one we choose. That's our minute independence. Yeah.
So it's pretty scary.
No. Yeah, it's scary if we don't want to surrender to Krishna. But if we want to surrender to Krishna, then it's fine. Krishna can place us under Yogamaya, that's fine. It's okay for us. But if you want to be independent, it's scary. Yeah, if you want to not be under Yogamaya or Mahamaya, then it's scary.
Like scary in a sense, like we can see in every daily life situation that we are grossly into the mind. So we are taught like we don't identify ourselves a body or like a person or age or character, anything like that. But we are forced to like think in that case scenarios.
Yeah.
For instance, like if something bad happened, whatever we get from association of Guru and Vaishnava, Shastra, we forget the moment.
Yeah, that's
Think,
right.
okay, no, I'm in problems. Why this is happening all the time? Though we understand from our inner concept that okay, we're eternal servant of Krishna, and my Guru Maharaj and Vaishnavas have said this clearly in many instances that these are coming from your prarabdhas. These things will go, but why we can't take those things at that situation?
So, the main answer to that question is the more strictly we follow Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, the more you will be situated in Yogamaya. The more we deviate and the more we disrespect the Guru and the Sadhu and we think that, oh no, that's fine, that those instructions were for a different time, not relevant today. If we think like that, then that amounts to Sadhu and Shastra Ninda. Because did Krishna not know that these instructions were for a separate time? Then why did Krishna, like many people even while reading Bhagavatam, they will say, oh no, these instructions are for 5,000 years old. Well, if that was the case, why would Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be reading this? And why would Srila Prabhupada write extensive commentary to give to us? To show that actually these scriptures are relevant for us even today. Just because we don't understand how to apply those scriptures now in our life or how to apply those teachings now, that doesn't mean that those scriptures are irrelevant. So actually all of the scriptures are relevant in our life and we should get out of this mentality of disrespecting the scriptures. So Shastra Ninda should be there. And Guru Ninda also, like we take Guru's instruction, Srila Prabhupada's instruction, oh no, that was Srila Prabhupada's instruction at that time for those particular people, etc. But if we don't read Srila Prabhupada's books, we won't know his instructions. So we have to actually follow Prabhupada's instructions nicely and we have to follow Shastra nicely. Then we will be situated in Yogamaya and not Mahamaya. So that is the only way to become situated in that. Yeah, so it is not advisable for us to... The more we want to become independent and follow our mind, the more we will be in Mahamaya. The more you want to become dependent on Krishna's instructions and dependent on Guru's instructions, the more we will be situated in Yogamaya. So actually there is no such thing as freedom. Because you are either a slave of your mind, you have got your mind and what your intelligence is telling you. Yeah, in Hindi there is a very common saying, man ke raja hai. You're like, oh, I am the king of my mind, I do what I want. But actually no, you're not a king of your mind, you're a slave of your mind. Your mind tells you, drink Coca-Cola now, you'll say, oh, I want Coca-Cola. Your mind will tell you, go eat Thai food outside, you'll say, okay, fine, I want to eat Thai food. And we think we are independent. So we can either be a slave of our mind, or we can be a slave of our Guru. Guru says, don't eat food from outside. Guru says, wake up every morning at 4:30. So you can be a slave of Nidra Devi or you can be a slave of Radharani. It's up to us. We have to choose whom we want to be a slave of. But the reality is we will be a slave of someone. Yeah, that needs to be there. Okay? Having said that, we will finish there. Vancha kalpa tarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyasya patitanam bhavebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Very much.